No, you ain't trying to get ready for work. Look at him. This is a sad case, y'all. He getting his stuff. Look at that. Sad case. As a father.
Okay, Jeremy, what is the conversation you want to have?
We good.
Yeah, and your baby in the room.
What is the conversation you want to have?
We good. Give me my phone, bro. Don't shut
What is the conversation you want to have?
What the conversation?
Get out my
He
phone.
said, what's the conversation?
Don't touch me. I'll call the police over here. Do not touch me.
He said, what's the conversation y'all want to have?
Get on me.
What's the conversation you want to have?
I'm finna send that over here. She touched me.
Ain't nobody touching you.
I'm gonna send my cousin over here. Do not touch me,
Don't
bro.
have nobody over here.
Oh, baby. Tell your daughter to keep her hands on
What
me.
is the
Tell your
conversation?
daughter to keep her hands on me.
You the one slap me. You the one slap me. Hit me now. Hit me now.
Keep your hands on me.
I'm
What's on, man?
still asking what is the conversation.
Oh man, that's what I'm finna do. I'm finna get out. I ain't really trying to argue at all. I'm just trying to get my
No, you want to go tell your family about this and about that. You want to do this.
I'm trying to leave from over here in pee, man. I ain't trying to argue at all.
Ain't nobody
I'm going to take my car key off.
Got my keys.
Stop. What is the conversation?
No, what's the conversation?
Bro.
What's the conversation?
Keep your hands on.
What's the conversation?
Keep your hands on. Don't touch me, bro.
What's the conversation?
Move, bro. I'm trying to get ready for work, man. Go.
How you getting ready for work?
What is going on? That's all
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm over here doing. Talking about I don't do nothing for the kids. I don't do nothing. I do what I can when I can.
understand.
But like I said, don't keep putting me in situations that's not my problem. And then, like I said, this is your family. You supposed to be here helping take care of
he ain't
these
straight.
kids.
No,
No, you're not good because you're not here taking care of these kids.
He wanna go call everybody.
Keep your hands on me, bro. Don't touch me again.
Touch you.
Jason, sit there over here. We'll make it easy. Sit there over here. I'm finna do it just like this. Sit there over here.
Ain't nobody finna come over here and do nothing.
Get your hands on me, bro. Stop touching me.
Need
Move.
to stop.
Sit there over here, Jason.
Ain't nobody coming over here.
Oh, me, bro. Sit down. Get your motherfucking hands on me, bro. Stop touching me, bro.
Stop.
Stop touching me.
I'm gonna kill you. Murder scene,
Stop
right?
touching me again.
Stop.
Let go. Touch me. Touch me again. Touch me a motherfucking again.
Stop. Wait a
Touch me
minute.
again.
Ain't nobody finna do
Don't go to
nothing.
putting a gun
Ain't
on me.
nobody finna do nothing.
The screen goes black, but the audio continues. A heated argument, shouting, the sound of movement. Then, a single gunshot. Screams follow. "Oh my God," a woman cries out. "I didn't know it was loaded." Children wail in the background, calling for their father, who will never answer again. Welcome to Shadows of Crime. I am your host, and today we're examining a case that exposes how quickly domestic tension can escalate to the unthinkable. If you're new here, take a moment to subscribe as we uncover the truth behind this tragedy. On March 25, 2023, what began as a Facebook live stream from a Columbus, Mississippi apartment ended with 28-year-old Jeremy Brown dead on his living room floor, shot by his wife Cadia while their children watched and thousands of strangers listened. The 9mm handgun that took his life was in the hands of the woman who had once pledged to love him forever. But what transforms love into lethal rage? What pushes a domestic argument past the point of no return? And why would someone broadcast their darkest moment to the world? Tonight, we'll trace the relationship between Jeremy and Cadia Brown from their 2017 wedding day to that fatal morning, uncovering the warning signs that everyone missed and the system that failed them both. We'll examine how social media both documented and possibly escalated their volatile relationship. Most chillingly, we'll hear from those who watched helplessly as a man's life ended in real time, unable to intervene as the screen went dark but the horror continued. This is the story of a murder that didn't have to happen, a tragedy that unfolded one click
for the
at a
first
time.
time from the mother of a man killed by his wife on Facebook Live.
That crime happened in Columbus, and it is also there where we found out this afternoon the wife's punishment for that crime.
Jeremy Brown's roots run deep in Columbus, Mississippi, where he was born to middle-class parents who instilled in him the values of hard work and perseverance. Growing up in this tight-knit community shaped his character in profound ways, giving him a strong sense of belonging and responsibility to others that would define his later years. Jeremy Rock Brown was born in 1994 and raised in Columbus, Mississippi. He was known for his outgoing personality, generosity, and willingness to help others. Jeremy attended Columbus High School, where he excelled in basketball and football, displaying a competitive spirit and a love for sports. After high school, he chose to focus on his personal life and career rather than pursue higher education. Professionally, Jeremy worked in the private sector, notably as a manager at National Sale and Lease, a company specializing in rent-to-own home furnishings and electronics. He was responsible for overseeing store operations, meeting sales targets, and ensuring customer satisfaction. Jeremy was recognized for his leadership and for developing a sales training program that improved employee performance and customer service. Yet beneath this carefully constructed public image of success and stability, Jeremy harbored private struggles that few suspected. The same drive that propelled his professional achievements created immense pressure he rarely acknowledged. While projecting confidence and composure to colleagues and friends, he battled periods of intense self-doubt and anxiety that grew increasingly difficult to manage. This disconnect between Jeremy's outward persona and inner turmoil created a tension that would eventually reach a breaking point. Those closest to him occasionally glimpsed moments when his carefully maintained facade slipped, revealing flashes of vulnerability that contradicted the self-assured image he presented to the world. These brief glimpses hinted at the complex reality behind the success story that everyone thought they knew. Cadia Brown was born and raised in Columbus, Mississippi, just a few miles from where Jeremy Brown grew up. The youngest of 3 siblings, she was known in her family for her outgoing personality and creative streak. As a child, Cadia loved performing in school plays and was often the center of attention at family gatherings, where her quick wit and sense of humor shone through. After graduating from Columbus High School, Cadia attended a local community college, where she studied business administration. During this time, she began experimenting with social media, posting makeup tutorials, and sharing snippets of her daily life. Her natural charisma and relatable style quickly attracted a following, and by her early 20s, she had established herself as a local influencer. Her Instagram and Facebook pages featured everything from beauty tips and fashion hauls to candid moments with friends and family. Cadia's growing online presence opened doors to new opportunities. She began collaborating with small businesses in the area, promoting local boutiques and beauty salons. Her ability to connect with her audience made her a sought PR partner for brand endorsements, and she soon launched her own line of handmade beauty products. Balancing her entrepreneurial ventures with her influencer work, Cadia became known for her hustle and ambition. In her personal life, Cadia was described by friends as fiercely loyal and protective of those she loved. She met Jeremy Brown in 2016, and the two quickly became inseparable. Their relationship moved fast. They married in 2017 and welcomed 2 children in the years that followed. On social media, Cadia often posted about her family, sharing photos of birthday parties, holidays, and everyday moments that painted a picture of a close-knit, loving household. However, those closest to Cadia sometimes noticed a different side. While she projected confidence and happiness online, she could be withdrawn and moody in private, especially during times of stress. Despite her public image as a supportive wife and devoted mother, there were signs of tension behind the scenes: strained relationships, frequent arguments, and moments of volatility that rarely made it onto her social feeds. However, beneath the surface of their public image, the Browns' marriage showed signs of serious trouble early on. Court and police records documented a pattern of domestic incidents throughout their relationship. These weren't isolated events, but rather indicators of ongoing conflict that periodically escalated to the point where authorities became involved. The documented history showed that their relationship was marked by volatility and, at times, violence. Family members and close friends witnessed the deterioration of the relationship firsthand. Jeremy's family noticed changes in his typically outgoing demeanor as he became more withdrawn at family gatherings. Meanwhile, Khadija's friends observed concerning patterns in how she spoke about her marriage, alternating between effusive praise and hints of serious problems. Those closest to the couple found themselves in the difficult position of supporting them while harboring growing concerns about the health of their relationship. Despite these troubling signs, Jeremy and Cadia remained together. They reconciled after separations, withdrew complaints filed with authorities, and continued presenting themselves as a united family. Even after incidents that required police intervention, they would return to sharing loving posts and family photos online, creating a confusing picture for those concerned about their welfare. What kept the Browns in this cycle of conflict and reconciliation? Was it genuine love and hope that things would improve? Financial interdependence? Concern for their children growing up in a broken home? Or perhaps the complex psychological dynamics that often keep troubled relationships intact, despite clear warning signs? As events would later show, whatever bound them together wasn't enough to prevent their relationship from reaching a breaking point, one that would have devastating and irreversible consequences. The Browns' relationship was marked by a troubling pattern of escalation that became increasingly apparent to those around them. Police records from the Columbus Police Department show multiple domestic disturbance calls to their residence over the years. The first documented incident occurred in late 2018 when officers responded to a neighbor's call about shouting and crying coming from the Browns' apartment. When police arrived, they found a tense situation but no visible injuries, and neither party wanted to press charges. This would become a familiar scenario. Between 2018 and early 2023, law enforcement was called to the Browns' home at least 6 times. These incidents followed a predictable cycle. An argument would escalate to the point where either Jeremy or Cadia, or sometimes a concerned neighbor, would call 911. Police would respond, and then one or both parties would downplay the situation. Officers' reports frequently noted mutual combat or verbal dispute only, though several incidents included allegations of physical confrontation. In September 2021, the situation escalated when Cadia filed for a temporary restraining order against Jeremy, claiming he had threatened her during an argument about finances. Court documents reveal her statement that Jeremy had grabbed her by the shoulders and pushed her against the wall, while their children were in the next room. The restraining order was granted but lasted only 3 weeks before Cadia requested its dismissal, telling the court they were working things out through counseling. This cycle of conflict, intervention, and reconciliation became a defining feature of their relationship. Friends reported that the Browns would separate briefly after serious incidents, with Jeremy staying at his mother's house or Cadia taking the children to her sister's, only to reunite days or weeks later with renewed promises to change. Their social media accounts followed by effusive posts about forgiveness and fresh starts. The night of March 24, 2023, just hours before the fatal shooting, the Browns attended a family gathering at Cadia's cousin's home. Multiple witnesses later told investigators that the couple seemed tense throughout the evening. Jeremy spent most of the night talking with male relatives, while Cadia remained unusually quiet. Around 10:30 p.m., they were seen arguing in the driveway before leaving abruptly in separate vehicles. If you're finding this story disturbing, you're not alone. These patterns of escalating conflict followed by reconciliation are tragically common in cases of domestic violence. Experts call this the cycle of abuse, a repeating pattern of tension building, explosive incident, reconciliation, and calm before the cycle begins again. Each time the cycle repeats, the risk of serious harm increases as boundaries are gradually eroded and violent behavior becomes normalized within the relationship. What makes these cases particularly heartbreaking is how predictable they often are in hindsight, yet how difficult they can be to interrupt before tragedy strikes. The warning signs were there for anyone paying close attention: the police calls, the restraining order, the visible tension at public events. But like many similar situations, intervention came too late. As the sun rose on March 25, 2023, neither Jeremy nor Cadia could have known that this day would be different from all the others. That this time, their cycle of conflict would end, not in reconciliation, but in irreversible tragedy. The morning began like many others in the Brown household, with tensions simmering just beneath the surface, waiting for the spark that would ignite it. According to statements later collected from neighbors, the arguing began around 9:15 a.m. Mrs. Wilson, who lived in the apartment directly below, reported hearing stomping and shouting that grew progressively louder. Another neighbor recalled seeing Jeremy briefly step outside to smoke a cigarette around 9:30 a.m., appearing visibly agitated before returning inside. By 10:07 a.m., the conflict had escalated to the point where Cadia made a fateful decision. She initiated a Facebook live stream from her personal account, something she had done countless times before to share makeup tutorials or family moments with her followers. This time, however, her intent appeared different. As viewers began joining the stream, they were met not with Cadia's usual cheerful greeting, but with the sound of an argument already in progress. For approximately 3 minutes, viewers watched as the argument intensified. Jeremy eventually came into frame, wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans. He appeared frustrated but controlled, gathering his keys and wallet from the coffee table. "I'm not doing this today," he said repeatedly, moving toward the front door. "I'm leaving before this gets worse." At 10:12 a.m., the situation took a critical turn. As Jeremy reached for the door handle, Cadia moved quickly across the room. The camera captured her retrieving something from a drawer, what would later be identified as a 9M handgun. Viewers reported seeing her raise the weapon, though Jeremy's back was turned as he was facing the door. At 10:13 a.m., the phone fell or was knocked over and the screen went black. What happened next was captured only in audio, a chaotic sequence that would be replayed in courtrooms and news reports for months to come. The sounds painted a chilling picture. Jeremy's voice, saying, "Dija, stop, put it down." Footsteps, a child crying in another room. Then, the unmistakable sound of a single gunshot, followed by a moment of complete silence. That silence was broken by Cadia's scream, raw and primal. "Oh my God! I didn't know it was loaded! I didn't know!" The Facebook live stream continued for another 7 minutes before it was finally ended, capturing the sounds of neighbors rushing in, someone shepherding the children to another room, and Cadia's repeated, increasingly hysterical assertions that she hadn't meant to do it, that she didn't know the gun was loaded. By the time emergency services arrived at 10:22 a.m., Jeremy Brown had no pulse. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The weapon that took his life was found on the living room floor, just feet away from where he fell. When the first police officers arrived at the Browns' apartment just after 10:20 a.m., the scene was chaotic. Neighbors had already gathered in the hallway, drawn by the sound of screaming and the knowledge that something terrible had happened. The officers entered to find Cadia in the living room, sobbing uncontrollably, her hands stained with blood. The couple's 2 children were huddled in a bedroom, crying and calling for their father. Paramedics rushed to Jeremy's side, but it was immediately clear that nothing could be done. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Officers quickly secured the apartment, separating Cadia from the children and neighbors. As they led her outside in handcuffs, she repeated through tears, "I didn't know it was loaded. I didn't mean to." Her initial statements to police were fragmented and panicked, alternating between disbelief and horror at what had just occurred. The investigation moved swiftly. Detectives collected evidence from the apartment, including the firearm, Cadia's phone, and the device used to stream the incident live. They interviewed neighbors, family members, and those who had watched the Facebook live video in real time. The footage, which had already begun circulating online, became a central piece of evidence, its raw, unfiltered depiction of the argument and shooting shocking even seasoned investigators. News of the live-streamed murder spread rapidly through Columbus and beyond. The community was stunned, struggling to process how a family so familiar to many could be at the center of such a public tragedy. Vigils were held for Jeremy, with friends and co-workers remembering him as a devoted father and a kind, hard-working man. Social media filled with messages of grief, outrage, and disbelief as well as calls for greater awareness of domestic violence. Media coverage was immediate and intense. Local and national outlets reported on the case, focusing on the disturbing nature of the crime being broadcast in real time. Commentators debated the role of social media in escalating private conflicts and the warning signs that had gone unheeded. The story became a flashpoint for discussions about domestic violence, mental health, and the responsibilities of online platforms. For the first responders who entered the Browns' apartment that morning, the memory would linger. One officer later described the scene as the kind of call you never forget. The children's cries, the overwhelming sense of loss, and the haunting knowledge that for a few agonizing minutes, the world had watched a tragedy unfold and was powerless to stop it. In the days following Jeremy Brown's death, Cadia Brown was formally charged with second-degree murder. The prosecution argued that her actions on March 25, 2023 were reckless and intentional, pointing to the Facebook Live video as evidence of escalating anger and a conscious decision to retrieve and use a firearm during a heated argument. The charge carried the possibility of a lengthy prison sentence, reflecting the gravity of the crime and the public nature of the incident. Cadia's defense team quickly asserted that the shooting was a tragic accident. In her initial statements and throughout the pretrial hearings, Cadia maintained that she did not know the gun was loaded and never intended to harm Jeremy. Her attorneys emphasized her emotional distress, the chaotic environment in the apartment, and the history of conflict between the couple. They argued that the shooting was the result of a split-second panic decision rather than premeditated intent. The court proceedings drew significant attention, with local media and members of the community closely following each development. The Facebook Live footage was played in court, its audio filling the silent room as jurors, family members, and reporters listened to the final moments of Jeremy's life. The prosecution highlighted Cadia's decision to arm herself and the irreversible consequences of that choice, while the defense focused on her remorse and the context of ongoing domestic turmoil. In a dramatic turn, Cadia ultimately entered a guilty plea to second-degree murder as part of a plea agreement. The judge sentenced her to 40 years in prison, with 34 years to serve before she would be eligible for parole. The sentence reflected both the severity of the crime and the court's recognition of the complex, painful circumstances surrounding the case. The day of sentencing, the courtroom was heavy with emotion. Family members of both Jeremy and Cadia wept quietly as the judge read the
In March
sentence.
of last year, the guilty plea and punishment happened today. Now, the woman that you see on your screen right now, that is Cadia Brown, the woman from Columbus who shot and killed her husband, Jeremy Brown, on Facebook Live. Yeah, you heard me right. Facebook Live. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder before a more than 90-minute sentencing hearing this afternoon at the Lowndes County Courthouse. Cadia Brown took the stand during the hearing and was noticeably upset. She told the court she did not mean to shoot her husband in the head. Circuit Judge Michelle Easterling reviewed the Facebook Live video that went viral last year, then sentenced Cadia Brown to 40 years in prison with 6 years suspended.
The sound of the gavel echoed through the room, marking the end of a trial that had exposed the darkest moments of a family's life and the beginning of a long road toward healing for everyone left behind. Following Jeremy Brown's death and Cadia's arrest, their two children faced an immediate and profound disruption to their lives. Having been present in the home during the shooting, they experienced the trauma firsthand. Court records indicate that custody arrangements were made for the children, though the specific details of who received custody were not publicly disclosed in the case information. The impact on both families was significant. Jeremy's family lost a son, brother, and father, while simultaneously having to support his children through this traumatic period. Cadia's family faced the dual challenge of supporting her through legal proceedings while also grieving the complex loss that affects everyone when such violence occurs. The Columbus community responded to the tragedy with increased awareness about domestic violence. Local organizations reported heightened interest in prevention programs and support services in the months following the incident. The public nature of the crime, broadcast via Facebook Live, sparked discussions about social media's role in domestic situations and the responsibility of platforms regarding violent content. For the children, the long-term consequences remain the most profound. Research on childhood trauma indicates that witnessing parental homicide creates significant psychological challenges that often require ongoing professional support. While their specific journey remains private, child welfare experts note that stability, therapy, and consistent support systems are crucial for children who have experienced such trauma. The case also had broader societal impacts, becoming part of ongoing national conversations about domestic violence prevention, the effects of trauma on children, and the intersection of social media and private conflicts. Various advocacy groups cited the Brown case when pushing for enhanced resources for families in crisis and improved intervention strategies for volatile domestic situations. The tragedy of Jeremy Brown's death reveals several critical warning signs that, in retrospect, indicated escalating danger. The documented history of domestic incidents between Jeremy and Cadia represented the most obvious red flag. Each police call, each temporary separation, and each reconciliation without meaningful intervention increased the risk of a fatal outcome. Experts in domestic violence point to this pattern of escalation as a predictable trajectory when conflicts remain unresolved and underlying issues unaddressed. Another significant warning sign was the presence of a firearm in a home with a history of conflict. Statistics consistently show that access to firearms dramatically increases the lethality risk in domestic violence situations. In the Browns' case, the combination of ongoing conflict and an accessible weapon created conditions for tragedy. Social media played a complex role in this case. While Cadia's online presence portrayed a happy family life, it also potentially increased pressure to maintain this image despite private struggles. The decision to broadcast the argument via Facebook Live represented a dangerous merging of private conflict and public performance, a phenomenon increasingly observed in cases of domestic homicide. Social media platforms have responded to such incidents by implementing crisis intervention tools, but these measures remain reactive rather than preventive. Intervention opportunities existed throughout the Browns' relationship. Each interaction with law enforcement, each conversation with concerned family members, and each moment of reconciliation represented a chance to break the cycle. Effective intervention might have included mandatory counseling, longer-term protective orders, or more comprehensive follow-up from support services after documented incidents. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, resources are available. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-723, provides 24/7 crisis support, safety planning, and referrals to local resources. Many communities offer emergency shelter, legal advocacy, and counseling services specifically designed for families in crisis. Remember that reaching out isn't just about immediate safety. It's about breaking a cycle that can escalate to tragedy. Before we conclude this difficult story, I want to ask you to take a moment to share this episode with someone who might benefit from understanding these warning signs. Your simple act of sharing could be the information that helps someone recognize danger in their own relationship or in the life of someone they care about. The most powerful tool we have against domestic violence is awareness, the ability to see patterns before they culminate in irreversible harm. The story of Jeremy and Cadia Brown reminds us that domestic violence rarely begins with extreme acts. Instead, it develops gradually, with boundaries eroding over time and conflicts intensifying until what once seemed unthinkable becomes reality. By recognizing early warning signs and taking decisive action, whether for ourselves or others, we can help prevent future tragedies and protect vulnerable families from irreparable harm. If this documentary has impacted you, please consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth investigations that shed light on important social issues. Share this video to spread awareness, and remember, recognizing the warning signs is the first step toward prevention.